just, yeah, it's something else. Anyway, the Matrix movie and the simulation is just, artificial intelligence X is never going to allow secret information to go mainstream. It's just not going to happen. So these resets are very real, but they're very difficult to detect. So you're not going to get somebody, you're not going to find somebody who's going to be able to provide 100% proof that these resets are even occurring. History is scrubbed. If you're inside a program, it is very difficult to isolate the protocols of that program and see how it affects you. The only way you can see how it affects you is by its effect. We have to study history to see the clues. And I'm often giving examples of Mandela effect and deja vu and synchronicities and parallels, coincidences. It's these things do happen in reality, and it gives us pause, and we have to stop and we have to think, why? How come all of a sudden in 1776 this great nation is born, rebels against the greatest empire the world has ever seen, the British Empire, this unstoppable force, and it gains momentum, and it moves forward in a 7-year revolutionary war, and other nations get involved, but there really isn't any international conflict at the time. It's just the United States against Britain, or the 13 colonies against Britain. 13 measly colonies. So how is it that they get so powerful so fast, a booming population, that manifest destiny occurs, and all of a sudden hundreds of thousands, then followed by millions of Americans who are all identifying themselves as Americans of the 13 colonies, are moving westward, taking over land after land after land, finding all these fucking things that Lewis and Clark never saw, Lewis and Clark never recorded, and all these weird ancient cities and all these anomalies, and it's baffling. In the unfolding of the 1800s, it's like this human wave of innovation and ideas and genius just took over, and suddenly it was absolutely retarded, completely stopped in its tracks by a series of destructive earthquakes and weird atmospheric shit that happened in 1811, 1812. And then through the 1800s, we're visited with fires that fall from the skies. The people of the time recorded the Great Fire of Chicago. You read about the Great Fire of Chicago today, and all you read is about somebody's cow knocked over a lamp, or some bullshit like that. There were several, like Pittsburgh, several great cities burned down and had to be completely rebuilt in the 19th century, in the 1800s. And when you read the accounts today, of course it's believable. Okay, somebody fell asleep, knocked over a candle, this hostel burned, and it set a whole block on fire, and before they could get everybody together, 2 blocks were on fire, the wind picked up, burned the whole city down, and this is how historians in the mainstream media, these redactionist bastards that we have that are covering up history, rewrite these things. But when you go back to the original source materials for the time, you find out that people were observing very strange things in the skies, and some people said they saw fire descend from the sky, and the city started burning. It's just so bizarre. I have a theory. That the reason why so many different historical narratives have so much evidence supporting them, and yet different factions and different faiths and different peoples believe in these things, and yet still there is evidence. One group can produce proof and evidence to show that the other side has been brainwashed, or the other side has accepted something that was untrue. They can pretty much null and void their own facts and evidence. How is it, unless, hear me out, when we study history, we seem to be looking at a kaleidoscope of events, not a linear projection, a linear timeline. I don't talk about this often because you would question my sanity. And I need to release a lot more videos so you can come to trust the rhythm of my ways and who I am as a truther and a researcher before I reveal a whole lot about some of the things I have discovered. because it requires a modicum of trust before you can accept things that are so far out of your frames of reference that it's just unbelievable. Case in point. I'll give you a case in point. When Captain Cook arrived to Australia and he first came into contact with the Aborigines, he was on the coast for 5 days in his ships. The locals, they were watching through binoculars and they could see the Aboriginals on the coast, but the Aboriginals were ignoring them. Captain Cook knew damn well them people could see his ship. They knew they could. This is all in Captain Cook's memoir. He finally sent some boats to the shore. When Captain Cook and those men disembarked those rowboats and they walked on the shore, the Aboriginals ignored them. In Australia, the Aboriginals did not warm up to Captain Cook and his men, and it took a long time. And it was explained it took weeks. It took a long time before they could teach this woman enough English I think she was from one of the chains of islands near Australia, but they had taught her English, and she had communicated to the Aboriginals through a sign language or something, and they developed a form of communication. And the Aboriginals specifically said that Captain Cook and his men were white, which meant to them they were ghosts. So they were ghosts of the dead, and they must be treated with respect. To look upon a ghost is to disrespect it because it's naked. It no longer has a body. This is a very profound belief. To believe that you are still an individual and a personality, even if you're a ghost, you just don't have your body. This is a very primitive belief system by the Aboriginals, but if you think about it, it's far more sophisticated than almost any of the belief systems that we maintain today. Mainstream. I'm not talking about you guys that are truthers and you're down with the metaphysical and spiritual. So